Here's the counter argument to that thing that you sent me,
Okay.
which is Intel.
Yeah. Intel Corporation.
So if
Yeah, they're getting tons of money, even though they're complete failure as
no,
a
they're not.
company.
They're
Yeah, the
they
CHIPS
keep
Act,
they
they
keep
get tons of
trying.
money.
No, they keep trying to help Intel out. It just keeps not working.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, but
so
but they still keep getting helped.
yeah, I don't know. I just
It's like a lot of money.
I don't think it's the case that I don't think it's the case that that these in I think it's about people. I don't know that it's about companies that are too big to
I
fail.
mean, you're right. They're like they are failing. They're getting tons of money and they're still not succeeding. So eventually, maybe they'll get dropped for Nvidia or something.
Well, Nvidia just body slammed the administration, right? Like Trump did that in his AI speech. He talks about Jensen and he talks about how he wanted to break Nvidia up because they have 100% market share. And then he was told that he couldn't break them up. And so now he has to play nice with Jensen. And then the camera cut to Jensen and he looked like he was going to murder somebody. It was awesome.
Jensen looked like he was gonna murder someone.
Yeah.
But why couldn't he break them up?
Because Nvidia has the US government over a barrel. Like they have no choice.
Okay.
Like Nvidia could break laws, they could do whatever. It's like, what is the government going to do about it? Like if Nvidia was selling chips to China,
then why is Jensen angry about it?
I think he was angry about it because Trump made it so obvious that he was, trying to, cut Jensen and Nvidia down to size, and then they couldn't do anything about it.
That's crazy.
I think just talking about it, I think, is annoying to Jensen. So
yeah.
So like if you think about
winning the talking.
Yeah, I think if you think about politics as kind of like a stage game, and you have sort of these titans or corporate titans or pharaohs or however you want to call them.
Kayfabe, you're saying?
I don't know what that means in this context, but
stage play like wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling. But I don't think it's like that. I think it's more like everybody has a role, but I don't think it's scripted. And so, you do see a lot of these things out in public, like now all of a sudden it's okay to release the lip reading of Barron Trump telling Biden at the inauguration, like, we're coming for you. And then Melania saying, be nice to him as he walks past her.
Okay.
He like whispers to Joe Biden, like, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
And so or it's on now or something like that. I just think it's
maybe he said they're coming for you. It's warning.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm always kind of bemused by these sort of things. Okay, so what's the story that you were talking about?
This NAS guy, NAS.io version 2.0. So this guy NAS, he's got a huge platform around the world.
Okay.
Millions of followers everywhere. He posts these videos. He like went to Harvard, posts these videos all the time, and then now he's like doing this AI platform. I'm sure it's not very good, but the idea is to potentially let people ask it, oh, I want to run a business selling lollipops or something, and then it'll tell you what to do and how to get customers and all that.
Isn't that the same thing as the vending machine guys? Is this the same thing as the vending machine guys where they like have a computer decide what to do, like when ordering in the vending machines? And like Elon said he was going to put a vending machine at Starbase.
Anthropic connected a vending machine to an AI, and the AI was not doing well running the business of the vending machine.
Yeah, but I heard that somebody was running one that was actually doing well. Are you saying that even that one is not? No one's doing well.
Did Elon say it was doing well? Would Elon lie about whether it's doing well? Is he prone to lie about that kind of thing?
So it's an interesting question, right? I don't know that he's lying, but he's definitely misrepresenting a lot.
Well, he lied about playing a video game. that was 100% a lie. He went on Joe Rogan. He talked about how he played the video game.
Well, he did play the video game. I think the thing is he didn't do like 99% of the play.
Yeah, but he said that he did.
But I think when he's streaming live and you see him go into the pit or whatever, I definitely think that that's him playing a video game.
Okay.
Right. And I think the other thing is,
are you asserting that he wasn't lying? Are you,
So
are you finding some reason that he was playing and not understanding what I'm
no,
saying when he
I mean,
wasn't playing the video game?
okay, time out. So he was playing the video game, right? Like that's provably true. I think the contention comes that no one is able to rank as highly as he did without using a team. So that would be like saying Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France a bunch of times. And if you're familiar with bicycling, there's something called a peloton where there's a bunch of riders that basically break the air and help the primary rider who's supposed to win um, be successful. And so would you say that like Lance Armstrong won those things?
Hey, this is the worst argument. Lance Armstrong was stripped of his titles for doping.
Yeah, but so were the
For
next
complete cheating.
It's not really relevant to the fact that like he actually was part of a team even though he won. So the question is,
yeah, but he was on Joe Rogan for hours and they asked him, is it just you playing? And he said yes. He didn't say he had a team. They asked him multiple times.
so again, I think that that's misrepresenting, right? So I think so like because
Lance Armstrong never misrepresented that he's part of a team. It's like totally different.
So again, I personally don't care that Elon used people because people can buy gear in all these video games, right? So like whatever, it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
And I definitely think he was playing on a team. There were multiple people who were doing his account. He was paying people. But like, I don't know. It's kind of like this, like, should he have done it all on his own? Did the other 20 people on the top list do it all on their own? Are they also on teams that we're not aware of? Everything is kind of like that. So anyway, with Elon, I don't think he outright lies. I think he does misrepresent. And I think if he said, so like, for example, a thing that he would do is you would say
maybe you should watch the Joe Rogan episodes.
Hang on a second.
To see him lying about it.
If I watch it and Joe says, hey, we saw a video of you playing the video game. You like playing video games? Yes, I love playing video games. Are you the only person playing the video game? So like in Elon's mind, you could say that in the video that they're watching of Elon playing, is he the only one? And the answer is yes. Even though if you look at all the lifetime hours of the character, the answer would be no.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a complexity factor there because he's also a billionaire and he can buy items to make his character better.
Yeah.
Other people,
you should watch the video. Like, it's not like a soundbite. Like, Joe Rogan has 3-hour interviews. They talked about it repeatedly. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just it's very odd.
Anyway, the only point I was trying to make is that it's not my experience that Elon straight up lies, but he does distort the truth in the same way that most Silicon Valley people do, where they exaggerate.
I think in the past he has been wrong about predicting the future, but no one can really be faulted for doing that. He's also talked to people and about claiming that they're pedophiles several times, and that's unsubstantiated.
Who among us hasn't accused a Thailand cave diver as a pedophile?
Yeah. Yeah. Curiously enough, he did also mention that Trump was in the Epstein list, which is kind of similar but different.
Yeah, I don't know.
Back to AI.
Yeah.
I think this guy's AI. Yeah, everyone's trying to make people's dream is to tell the AI, make me $1 million. Why does that not work? What?
Why would that work?
Well, a lot of people think it should work if it's AGI, right?
A lot of people are retarded. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, okay, here's one actually way that it would work. Most people are not using AI still. Most people don't know about deepfakes. Most people aren't actually using it. So I guess technically the first people to use the earliest, best AGI will have, be the 0.1%, and they will have an advantage, and they theoretically could use it to get them more money for some amount of time until other people realize.
Right. So then the question is like, it's only the frontier models, and then it's like some engineer who's running a copy of the latest frontier model on his laptop.
Yeah. Or the pro subscribe. How many pro subscriber 200 a month subscribers are there? Like 100,000?
I don't think so. You think there's oh you're talking about ChatGPT Pro?
Like $200 a month.
I personally think that this is like everything in life, where whenever there's a new technology, there's an advantage created by that technology, and it creates an arbitrage, the difference between
Yes.
risk and uncertainty, right? So value is created when you convert uncertainty into risk. And I think that whoever it is that's running the telemetry for these AI systems at scale is the person who best benefits from these things, and they don't share it with anybody else. That's
Okay, so you think that they wouldn't, so Claude and ChatGPT wouldn't offer it to any of their audience. They would just run it themselves. They would, I mean,
So
at
the
that point, they would
arbitrage-
shut down
well,
ChatGPT. They would
No,
just
no,
kind of run it themselves and shut.
no, this is wrong. So wherever the frontier is, there's somebody at the frontier who's exploiting arbitrages as they become available. That's why so many people are spending so much money in order to become at the frontier. So like years and years and years ago, I was talking to somebody who's sort of like familiar with and worked with a certain venture firm that operates more like a hedge fund. And that venture firm had a very stellar record, but they had made some bad investments in the global financial crisis. And so one of the things they did was they bought a high frequency trading firm. And the way high frequency trading firms work is they basically create some kind of arbitrage and then exploit it for a certain amount of time. And so this particular firm bought an HFT firm for $200 million. And then that firm was able to exploit a high frequency arbitrage to the tune of $900 million. And that was how they basically saved their fund. But that $900 million arbitrage only lasted for 12 weeks or something like that. It was like not very long time. And so my hypothesis with AI is that there are people at the frontier, like Larry or Sergey, right, who use the AI for their own purposes, including asking it every time, like, give me a list of all the businesses that we could do. And then insofar as the AI is able to do those businesses, they do them all. And then as soon as that arbitrage goes away, they turn around and give it to everybody else while they're working on the next one. And everybody else can, in theory, use the same technology, but the arbitrage has already gone away. And so they're just bringing up the rear, and they're not really aware of it. Because like one of the challenges with AI is there's no one on earth who can say this is the most valuable thing you can do with ChatGPT. Like if I was to ask you, like, what's the most valuable thing that you can do with ChatGPT, and you think about input versus outputs. So if I
not the most valuable, but can you just say like make me $1 million?
Well, again, make me $1 million is a sort of like a dumbass statement, because we live in an adversarial environment and everybody else has access to the ChatGPT, and so it's never the case unless you're the first person with access that you could ask that system.
Well, not just first. It could be the first 100,000 people can do that.
I don't agree. I just don't agree, because you can parallelize this thing and you can scale it to infinity. Like there's no reason why you have to wait for 100,000.
You're saying no one would offer it.
I just don't think you would until you've exploited the entire mind.
What if it is possible? What if it did work? Some Qwen 4 released it, and then people started using it, and then like they released it before they realized that it actually worked. No one tried. They didn't try to ask it in a certain way.
I don't know. I guess my comment.
What you're saying logically makes sense. Is what
there's a bunch of hedge funds that paid hundreds of millions of dollars to like that guy who did Elad or Emad or whatever. Okay, they all paid him a ton of money to do their data and all this kind of thing.
By the way, you're in a beautiful place. I can hear the birds twittering. It's just really looks really nice and peaceful.
I know. It's just they're painting my room, so I'm just outside on the deck. So I think that all of these guys are up to the gills on whatever the latest and greatest is of this technology, and there's an entire corporate espionage layer that's just below sort of the top tier, and then below that there's sort of like what everybody else has. And I think that anytime that there's an arbitrage, these guys figure out what it is, and then they have like a standard battery of like questions or tests or businesses, and they have an army of people who can implement these businesses or ideas. So as soon as the AI gets it, they execute on it. That's what I think Larry and Sergey were doing with Google. They basically created a private intelligence community. Like Google basically became another NSA functionally. And so you could say like, well, what were they doing with it? One of them is they were just helping the NSA. And the other one is they were just using it for their own purposes. And you could say that, you're like, okay, but I didn't see them doing it. It's like, yeah, they did it. They obviously did it really well. Like, it's like, you know, they were using Gemini or whatever the precursor models, the machine learning models to do like real estate investment or whatever, very basic stuff 10 years ago.
Well, I visited the Google X Labs. They had some impressive demos.
By the way, I think
But
it was just
that's exactly what you're saying. They're using the latest technology and AI, and Google Brain was still out there to think like, oh, if we had infinite compute and AI, you know, can we redesign houses, you know, architect them automatically? And they kind of did, and they spun these companies out, and it didn't really pay off except for a couple of projects. One of them being Google DeepMind.
So a good example would be like quantum computing. Okay. So the rumor, everyone, if you go to Washington, D.C., everyone says quantum computing, quantum computing, quantum computing. You talk to people who are actually quantum computing experts who have experience at the quantum computing labs, and they say, listen, quantum computing is totally useless except for a very niche application that's a couple $100 million a year. That's what they all say. They're all like, it's very useless except for a very specific niche application.
The niche professors.
Like if you talk to people who are experienced in quantum computing, the actual practical application of it, they'll all tell you that it's totally useless for any real computation except for a couple $100 million a year in contracts.
There was one algorithm that some high schooler realized that you could do with a classical computer, and they were like, quantum is useless for this.
Okay, great. So the question is, what are the couple $100 million worth of contracts? And why is it that everyone in Washington, D.C. talks about quantum computing as this breakthrough technology, and at the same time, the people who are actually in quantum computing say the technology does nothing except for a couple $100 million in contracts?
Because
like very obvious to me as a practitioner of computing and hacking that the U.S. intelligence community is using quantum computing at some level that's a couple $100 million a year to do something that only they can do, which suggests that you need a huge amount of data, a huge amount of compute. So we're now talking not about a quantum computer pure play, we're now talking about a hybrid play. And in DC, people aren't dumb, they're just not technical. And so they all hear, like through the grapevine, the whisper network, that quantum computing is being used for some national security thing. And the national security thing is to break
encryption. Yeah.
Okay. So, and the thing is like, if you could actually break encryption, would you sell that to everybody? No, you wouldn't. So they're like not talking about how they're using quantum computers to break encryption, but everybody who you can see publicly, like people are like, oh yeah, quantum computing is like 15 years away from being useful, except for a couple $100 million a year. And you're like, well, what are those couple $100 million contracts? It's like really specific, you know, some specific niche applications. Like, well, who is the customer? Right? It's like, just like ask these basic questions. And then every single person in DC that's somewhat connected to technology will be like, oh yeah, quantum computing is the next in cyber or whatever. Right. And they can't actually explain specifically why. And it's because I think they're hearing it through the grapevine of the grapevine of the grapevine of what they're doing. And I think this is the same thing with some of the billionaires that control some of these overmatched technologies when it comes to machine learning, telemetry systems, and AI, is that just because they can personally make a ton of money with it in their family office doesn't mean that they spin it out into a company that we see in the public.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think there's a bunch of these things where they have, like Google X, there's been like 2 or 3 technologies that have been rumored to be really good, and then they just disappear. That show a lot of promise for whatever, and then they just kind of disappear, and then we never really hear about them again. I think no, I'm serious. Like, it's just like, and you talk to people and like, whatever happened to that group? And they're like, oh yeah, that guy, like, they live in Colorado now, you know, whatever. It's just like super kind of weird. It's this lab to test things.
They live in Utah now.
Every once in a while, there's something like very successful that comes out of the lab, but that's not commercialized for whatever reason. And I think there's multiple ways to commercialize it other than through the sort of like venture slot machine public entity creation. Because like another thing is that if you're Xerox PARC doing all this R&D, do you really want to create Apple and all these other competitors that are going to put you out of business? Not really, right? So
that's what happened with Transformers and Google.
I understand. And so I think some of the things like a niche application for quantum computing, you could keep that small. A couple teams know about it, the actual specifics. Something like transformers, which you could use to re-architect your entire business, probably not. So I do think there are some technologies that they create that you can't really keep under lids, but I do think that there's also some R&D efforts that are 3-4 people that if they actually show promise in a super niche area, that it just sort of disappears and then we don't necessarily hear about it.
Yeah, and they become UFOs.
Yeah, but for the record, I don't think UFOs are real from an alien perspective. I think this is just drone technology. There's a guy named Just X Ashton.
AI drone technology?
So there's a guy named Just X Ashton who's been researching the MH370 disappearance for like 15 years now. And he's got some pretty compelling video that came out of, what are they called? Those facilities, like a security cleared facility. And I think he finally has an explanation about how this would be like human technology to do what he's claiming happened with MH370. And so I was like,
people on Hacker News think it's just a pilot suicide.
I think in order to believe that, you have to believe that the videos that Ashton has recovered and digitally forensically authenticated to the time period and digitally forensically identified the difficulty of faking them at the time period that they were discovered, you have to believe that those videos are in fact fake. It's kind of like the whole thing where the video footage from the moon landing is not possible to be faked in the 1960s. So that's like one reason why you could say that we went to the moon, even though there's tons and tons of people that believe that we didn't go to the moon.
Yeah.
So there's like, as you find these pieces of evidence, you have to be able to disqualify them as being. And I think the moon landing definitely happened, and I'm sort of still out on what's going on with MH370. We can go back to AI.
So AI, let's see. Grok 4 came out. What happened in the last 2 weeks?
So Grok 4 was really interesting. I personally have been loving using it. They've obviously had some stumbling blocks where a ton of people tried to use it.
It got pretty anti-Semitic, right?
They rolled it. No, that was Grok 3. They took out all of the like anti-Semitism stuff, I think, as a marketing play. So I think if Elon is very good at one thing, he's very good at generating impressions, engagement around businesses. So the day before they launched Grok 4, they made it like super whatever, right? Where it was talking about raping some guy. And I mean, just like totally crazy, right? It's exactly what you could do if you were a 14-year-old boy with unlimited resources. Right. That's kind of like my thesis on Elon, is that he's like a 12 to 14-year-old boy that wants to go to Mars. And
now that he has FU money, he can just let his inner boy
do whatever he wants. And also, like, he's so intertwined with like the defense industry that the government will never come after him in a real way. So like he's fine. Also, like, so many people have made so much money from investing in Tesla and his other businesses that he just has like this bubble of invincibility around him, so he can just like do things like break the law all the time.
There are literally hundreds of thousands of millionaires from his companies.
Yeah, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds to thousands. Yeah,
there are only thousands of millionaires from his companies.
Well, I think there are 100,000 people who are millionaires because of Tesla.
I mean, he alone has 300 billion. So if that's only 10% of it, then that's $1 trillion worth of money distributed over $1 million. It's 1 million people. Just do the math. I think it's easily hundreds of thousands.
Okay, great. So what I'm saying is that those people are then also connected to, they have families, and then those families rely on their dentists and doctors and all this kind of thing. And so, when you think about it, it's like quite heavy politically. So anyway, I think Elon could just do whatever he wants, and the government just sort of has to go along with it at some point.
It's quite heavy, and yet it's still like under 1% of America easily who have direct.
But like, how many percentage of people need to be aligned on something in order for our government to change, right? There's a lot of like weird regulations that get passed because
that's true. There could be people who are like super aligned on one side, and would absolutely vote that way, but suddenly 100, 500,000 of them made money, so now they're like, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna vote for this guy on this one issue, And that
That's
half a
right.
percent is all you need. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like if you look at the margin of error in the last like 5 elections, it's like it comes down to about 50,000 swing votes in like 8 states.
Yeah.
Right. So like you're like, it's like you don't really need that many people to change all the outcomes. Like so and certainly there's all these examples of very niche. So I talk about it, acute harms versus diffuse harms. So you have like a couple of companies in the food business that are like really interested in a very particular interpretation of like FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. And then they lobby the Congress people, and each one of the 5 companies donates $15,000 to a super PAC for like 5 Congress people. Okay, so like objectively, this is a very small amount of money that they've given, but 5 companies times $15,000 each is $75,000 by doing my math right. And that's a lot of money to a congressperson. And then all they have to do is, put in one line in one of these 5,000-page bills that changes the regulation in such a way that those companies make hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. And you're like, no, in theory, that what I'm saying is true because you can sort of perceptually or intuitively aware that this happens all the time. People talk about it in all these different industries. And the people who, it's a classic, like the people who know don't care and the people who care don't know. And so then like 20 years later, you get someone like Nicole Shanahan saying like, yeah, we shouldn't have red 40 in all this food. It makes the kids crazy. But like, 20 years ago, nobody knew anything about red 40. And so they just were like, yeah, just let it go through. There's not enough data, so.
Yeah, we're shining light on a lot of things. A lot of people are learning a lot about some things. Yeah. RFK is doing some things that are good. It's kind of surprising.
It's actually a lot of things that are going well. If you take out like the individuals, so you like take out Trump, you take out RFK, take out Tulsi, all of those individual people, but all of like we're going to bring in Gen X people that use technology, and we're going to like make the government accountable to the people in some small way more than they were before. Like that's a huge win. So.
Yeah. So what else happened in AI? Meta hired a bunch more people for a ton of money.
Yeah, what do you think about that? They're like up to
Windsurf. Windsurf, what happened in the last 2 weeks? Well, I think we talked about that last time. Windsurf is the big thing, right? The $2 billion.
Windsurf just seems like a CF because now there's now a third company that's acquiring them.
Yeah, Cognition, which is a founders fund company.
I think the whole thing is downstream of Figma, right? So Adobe tries to buy Figma for $20 to $25 billion. The Department of whatever it is, the FTC says, no, you can't do this. It's an antitrust thing. So they say, fine, we're not going to do it. Now we have Figma going to the street at a valuation between $13 and $20 billion. So that little, journey, as the Interstellar said, cost us 50 years. It cost them 25% of their market cap. And now you have sort of this evolution where they've created this very bizarre synthetic instrument to acquire but not acquire the company and all of its technology. We're like, we're going to pay everybody $500 million for like the top 5 people, and then license it from the company in such a way that all the investors make 10x their money or whatever. Like they do like some kind of crazy synthetic derivative thing. And at the end of the day, they didn't acquire the company. The company still exists, licensing the technology to them for $0, and everybody's paid off. It's like it's like only something that someone in Wall Street could come up with. The other one that I commented on, which is not related to AI, but I think is very funny, is there's a $85 billion transaction between Southern Pacific and Eastern Pacific or something like that, which are 2 railroad companies. And so it warms my heart that in 2025, there's some investment banker out there who made tens of millions of dollars in commissions by helping 2 railroad companies to merge.
It's like when I played Monopoly and I had to get all the railroads.
I just think it's really crazy, right? Because we talk about how all the money is made in technology at the frontier, and like these guys, all they did was like help one railroad company buy another one. And, let's say they got 10 basis points on fees. It's still so much money. It's still like $85 million or something like that. So this is like crazy.
That is a lot.
That's like a ton of money.
Do you think anyone asked, where's the AI here? So what's the AI angle? Where are we getting some AI synergy here?
Yeah, well, I think one of the questions that everyone is beginning to ask at a very significant level is, what is something that we know will be late to AI's eating it, right? So I think at this point, sophisticated market participants have sort of bought into Mark Andreessen's statement that software is going to eat the world. And so I think the question is just like, what's the last thing that's going to be eaten? And then people are buying those assets
Sports.
for a premium.
Sports has been going on for the last decade.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, right? I think the other thing that people are now aware of at a much more meta level is that chess, for example, was beaten by computers in the 90s, and it's never been more popular and more wealthy.
Can we explain that? What is the fundamental thing there? Like, what's happening?
I don't.
It is more popular than ever. I mean, part of that's COVID. Part of that's COVID. Like, people were bored in COVID.
Well, there was like that show, Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
It's hard to say like why something becomes culturally relevant. I think there's a lot of factors. I think you can't ignore the fact that chess was popular when we had the USSR versus the US. That was a thing, right? Gary Kasparov versus what's this, Bobby Fischer or whatever. So there were a series of chess games between the two countries, and so as a result, there were chess tournaments all over the country. And I think that those were like very significant. And then in the 90s, as the Cold War sort of went away, it feels to me like chess started to lose some of its cultural relevancy. Like there was a movie that came out in the 90s called In Search of Bobby Fischer, and it made quite a lot.
Josh Waitzkin. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I watched it as a kid. You watched it as a kid. I'm sure we played chess, at whatever. And so there was this cultural moment for chess, I think, that was really big. And then it went away. And then while it had gone away, then somebody, because it's like a finite, it's a discrete problem set. They solved it with a computer. And then they solved it and solved it and solved it to the point where, first it was the human, beats the computer 3 out of 5 times. Then it was the computer beats the human 3 out of 5 times. Then it was, okay, well, a human plus a chess computer still beats the chess computer. And then it was the chess computer always wins.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where the chess computer always wins. And also it like creates moves that are like not explicable to the chess computer. Because like when you have a discrete, and it's like when it was a discrete system and it was a traditional machine learning model, you could explain why the computer won. I think now that we're applying more neural network type technologies to chess engines, now you can't really explain. And even those are even better than the sort of discrete, it's what is that called? The bitterness of computation or something. It's like
the bitter lesson.
The bitter lesson. There you go. We're going to talk a lot about the bitter lesson. But anyway, culturally, maybe it's because there's no risk.
There's no risk in chess.
Yeah, because like people can play chess, like computers can do it better. We're no longer the best. We can just play it for fun, and then people just get into it for fun, because why not get into it for fun?
And this is part of my thesis, that all games, all the futures is games. We're just going to play games.
I think the number of people playing Go is also on a similar trajectory.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think once AI solves it, then people will do it more just for fun without being stressed about being the best? Is there something? What do you mean?
I think there's something there for sure.
I
don't know. But
is AI writing better? Like, do people write anymore? Now are people going to write more because they... I don't know. People seem to be writing less. I find it a bit hard even to write right now. I'm like, why should I write? No one's going to read it anyway.
So there's an
AI write it.
There's a J curve, right? Yeah. I think everything has a J curve. So I think that initially, did I lose you? Oh no.
I don't think everything's a J curve.
What was that? Sorry, what?
I don't think everything's a J curve. I mean, VC returns are a J curve.
No, I'm saying that technology diffusion and like value from it is a J curve. So if you think about writing, a lot of writing happened when there was a lot of demand for writing because of literacy, and it was really bottlenecked because it was expensive to distribute information. And then it became free to distribute information. And now I feel like there's a demand for good information. Like people are making money on Substack, and you could say in a sense that computers can extract the facts about anything better than humans can at this point. And so now there's some esoteric value in the way that the facts are presented, that somehow like we like it. And so my suspicion is that as computers get better and better at writing like sales copy, like all of the ways that people got paid to write, basically you're not going to get paid to write for them, so the amount of money is going to go down, and then people are going to now see it as an art form, and then it's going to go up again because it's going to be so much. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like with chess. It's like there's a J curve. That's what I'm trying to say. Is
So you think soon there will be more people writing because it'll be more of an art, and people will want more like poems and things like
yeah,
more
exactly. And then all of a sudden, like poetry, the poetry industry, the human written
like
poetry,
human quality seal of humanity
yeah,
poetry.
and it will be like securitized by crypto or something. Like there'll be something that says that this is not written by AI.
So the same thing will happen with music. So there'll be like a music bot and music DJs, and people will say in like 3 years they'll say, "Oh, I need human quality seal that this was a human who did this."
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think so. Let me explain in my own experience. I am now finding myself wanting to go to like jazz clubs. I want to go somewhere physical that plays music with a bunch of other people. Like I'm very nostalgic for, you know, the 1940s big band, even though I never lived there. It just seems like it'd be really cool.
Nice.
You know, I don't know how to explain it. Like I'm not super interested in having a discography catalog. I was in the 90s because I couldn't afford to buy CDs, and so then you could get them for free, and so I did, like everybody else. And then now I kind of like listen to music, but it's not the reason for my wanting it is not because it's scarce. The reason that I'm wanting it is because like I want it to enhance the experience. I don't know how to explain that more objectively, more discreetly, but it's just like a intangible that I feel about music.
So what else? Yeah,
like,
music.
Yeah. Simple, right. So the reason I knew Hangout was going to be important for me when I dropped into one of the channels, and you were doing some kind of like live music thing, or you had convinced some DJ or somebody to go there. And so I went to Hangout, and I went into one of the channels, and I like discovered a bunch of music. It was like chill or something like that. And it was just like, I just like really vibed with it. And I just left it playing on the tab for like 4 hours, and it was amazing. And it was just, it was like the experience that I had with the radio, but all the commercialization was taken out. And so then it was just pure again. I don't, you know, like there used to be like this, when I was a kid, you would listen to like a radio station, and then for certain times during the day, that because of people were on like their commute or whatever, they would go like 20 minutes with no commercials or 45 minutes with no commercials. And there wasn't all this fucking station identification stuff or all these weird sweepstakes that were a way to do statistics, like send us our bills.
But don't you get that on like Pandora or Spotify? You don't get ads and stuff? Like what is
I don't. But the thing that pisses me off about Spotify is that I know that they're purposefully playing me second or third tier songs so they can make more money. No, I'm dead serious. Like I'll like set up a playlist that I want, and it'll play through my playlist, and then it'll suddenly go to the B side on all these records. Right. It's like obvious that the music quality is like worse, and I'm like, no, there's like this other song that's I've heard before, but I didn't specify in this particular playlist. In like my Discover Weekly, which I used to really listen to, I had this experience where like the first 3 songs of the playlist were amazing. They were exactly.
You notice it in your feelings. You're like, oh, this is great, and then an hour later, you're like,
I know.
I'm weird. Like why?
Sorry to make this an extended advertisement, but it was just. I had perceived this thing where the first 3 songs in my Spotify playlist were like really good. And so I would download them and add them to like a playlist of my own. And then I wouldn't care about the rest of the Discover Weekly. They had another 50 tracks and they just weren't relevant. But then the next week, to get me to come back, they would play 3 really good songs again, or 5 or whatever.
3 good songs plus 47 cheap songs.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I perceived was going on. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
That's exactly true. Definitely doing that.
Yeah. And it was because they were like, basically like, if we can get them really vibing for 3 songs, and there's a high probability they'll listen to all these bullshit songs because they're already vibing and they're not really paying attention anymore specifically. And when I went on Hangout and there was a human curated DJ, that didn't happen. It was like every song was a banger for like 4 hours. It's amazing. And I know that,
And there's like a flow, and there's like a certain human sense that it was good.
Yeah. And so
a human was accountable for every song, and they're accountable, and you can reach them, and you can tell them thumbs up, and you can tell them, hey, that sucks.
Yeah. So that was for me when I had that experience. That's when I knew that if you could scale the business, that it would be just really incredible. And that's when I became a big fan. So, because we had talked about it, I invested and I helped in Hangout and everything before any of that was built. But then when you showed me that, I remember it was like one of the early web app, didn't fucking work, hard to get in. Like there were all this, everything that you have with like an alpha web build, which doesn't happen anymore. Now it works fine. Everything you had, it was all like really horrible, but we finally got all that stuff sorted away. And then it was just like this clean experience for like 4 hours.
It's great. Yeah. That's what we're doing with Hangout. No AI, all humans. But we have to understand AI in order to beat them, because they're about to take over.
I don't even know that that's true. Like, I think it's going to, this has kind of been my central thesis, is I think the world is just going to reorganize around beauty instead of GDP. So like right now we try to optimize for GDP per capita. And I think the next thing that we're going to try to optimize for is like, is this making the world more beautiful? And it's a less objective statement and much more human-centered statement. And
wouldn't Europe be better at that than the US?
I don't know, because you could say that the Europeans, by refusing to invest in air conditionings and then having a much higher per capita number of people die every year from heat exhaustion than the US relative to temperatures. So controlling for temperatures and blah, blah, blah. Europe has like 10 times higher chance of death from heat exhaustion than the US does. And it's because they like deliberately don't want to install air conditioners. So what I would say is that that's
they're also much older. So you get much older.
I don't think they're making the world more beautiful by some of the policies that they're implementing. So like, even if you think about like, well, what's the case for going to the gym and working out and all of this stuff? So the sort of like GDP per capita case is that I go to the gym and I work out so I can maximize my earning potential. The beauty, the aesthetics argument is that like, I want to maximize how beautiful I can be. And you could say this is like a kind of narcissism, but then you could also say that everything we do is videoed and pictured and, your face card or whatever. There's an entire culture around online mediated narcissism. And like beauty is a really important component of that. And like you were talking earlier that
there's AI in Japan and Asia. There's AI that will like beautify people's faces, like make them like more like thin and like mousy and like pale and like changes your cheekbones, so it just makes your eyes bigger. I think that was another one, like makes your eyes slightly larger. And that's like normal for them. It's like it'd be crazy to show a photo of yourself without that AI filter.
Yeah, but I also think that like when they're in interpersonal reactions, to have a really jarring difference between who they are as a person online and who they are in person, it's also not a thing. And so like I would say like in Asia, particularly in Japan, if you're like super overweight and unhealthy, that they would see that as sort of like an affront to your family. And so like from a saving face perspective, you should lose the weight, which is why I think that if fat phobia is such a thing, it's highest in South Korea and Japan. And so, and it's culturally enforced, right? And there's all kinds of examples online of that. But I guess what I'm saying is I think the next version that AI helps us to get to is sort of like, we're not going to care about GDP per capita. We're going to just care about like, is this making things more or less beautiful?
Okay. So AI is going to help us do that. You think maybe we'll have like a dictatorship of AI where AI goes around saying, this is beautiful, this is not beautiful, here's how you improve this?
No, I think it's going to be a taste thing. So I think one of the things that we're starting to see is that people who are able to leverage these new technologies the most are people with very good discernment in whatever their field is, which is a consequence of having a lot of expertise in that field, that discernment. And so I think this concept of taste is going to, again, it's a slippery concept. It's not well defined. And you could say like, well, there's taste in product development, there's taste in software development, there's taste
I
in,
would say that's going to happen more and more. I think like we have programmed this AI to do logic and wordplay, and it'll do physical stuff. And VR is all about, oh, we figured out how to program your retina.
Mhm.
And what it's missing is when you're in person with someone, there's a whole vibe going on, and there's like energy, a lot more than just what's retina going through the retina. And
Yeah.
that's a whole energy that people pick up on, right? Like people in dating and other things, and
When
in
you
sales calls.
when you ask car people why they don't like Teslas, they'll say it's because it's too minimalist and not very. They say like the feeling of driving the car isn't there. It's very clear that they like don't love the car like the Porsche people do. Like,
Yeah, and part of that is like vibrating and things like that. So we're gonna get like
so, I think the computers.
we're gonna get more and more like that. Like as the AI does everything else, we're gonna find, what do we have left? Well, we're just gonna vibe. We're
It's
literally
just
just gonna
vibe.
sit with each other and be vibing. It's like, we won't
Yes.
even talk. Because what's the point of talking? The AI does it better. We're just gonna sit and vibe.
Yeah, I don't know. If
We're just gonna be like, yeah.
So part of me thinks that
We're gonna talk in like nonsense poetry constantly, just like words, but it's not.
I don't know. I don't know that I don't know that that's the case, because I don't necessarily think so. Google Glass didn't work because people didn't want their reality mediated by technology like that. But the Meta glasses are working because people do like to record and then have information like summarize this conversation or whatever. So I think sort of something similar to chess and Go and all these games is going to happen, where as the computer is better able to make arguments than we can make ourselves, people will really like going to like the town square and listening to somebody give a speech about something.
Yeah.
I feel like in 20 years we're going to go to the town square and there's going to be a guy like a crier who's going to be like telling a story like the Iliad or something like that, and there's going to be people that like make it their job in life to be like a really good speaker. And you could say, well, what, no one's going to pay for that. No, they're not going to pay for it in the terms of like communicating the value of their words. Like, you're not going to pay Hillary Clinton $200,000 to come talk to your investment bank, but you are going to pay somebody $250,000 to come talk to your investment bank. But again, it's about taste, not about the words that they're saying necessarily. It's kind of like chess. It's like the computers are better at chess, but more people play it. And so I think we're going to have a lot more people that are doing stuff with other.
But it'll. I think what you're saying is also is what you're saying. It's about brands. Like, you'll invite Hillary Clinton come over because it fits your brand. And talk about the brand. And she's saying nonsense words. It doesn't matter.
I don't necessarily know.
She's giving you some brand equity, co-marketing, partnership vibes just from being there.
I think it's a bad example with Hillary, because like we saw with Barack Obama, that now he's trying to go on playlists, and somebody pointed this out to me and it just like hit me like a ton of bricks, which is that he personally is anti-mimetic. So if he's like in an interview or something like that, he doesn't create vibes that people mean. And that all the mimetics that Obama had were all constructed as a consequence of his media environment, where it was very controlled and all this.
He's very magnetic, and people are like, wow.
He was like, he's so amazing. And like now he goes on this 2 or 3 hour podcast and you're like, this guy is so boring. And say what you will about Trump. Trump doesn't show well on a news thing, but if you like watch one of his whole rallies for 3 hours and just suspend disbelief for a moment, he's very entertaining.
He's a comedian,
his
tweets were also pretty hilarious and viral from just being.
If you could separate out the fact that he is who he is,
he's like stronger tweeter than any 20-year-old, any Gen Z, by far.
And they were just like, he was just like legitimately an entertainer. And so I do feel at some point that what we've seen, especially in politics now, is that if you're going to be relevant in politics, you can't be a constructed person anymore. It has to be like authentic.
Yeah. That's one thing I like about it. The Gen Z, it's all Gen Z, right? Gen Z is all about authenticity. It's interesting, but they've really pushed it that way.
Yeah, I think the entire information environment is moving towards authenticity because everyone
because of Gen Z.
I don't know what it's because of. I think it's just a function of aggregation theory.
Or maybe Gen Z is becoming authentic demanding authenticity because the medium now allows it, and therefore they want it, and they're obviously the first ones to kind of
I mean, so I really like If you want my personal
Are
opinion,
you? Well, you should be authentic right here, right now. You're
yeah, yeah.
live
So my
streaming.
my personal opinion about
You
this, and
can't
I've talked
cut.
about this for years, is that whatever your sense making environment was from ages 7 to 14, that sort of gets locked in, and the economics of information shifted really radically post 2007 with the smartphone. And so the
The
way
economics of what?
information distribution. So,
Okay.
what's his name? Stratechery Ben Thompson talks about aggregation theory. So there's sort of like a wave in the late 90s with people like you and me, where
I
our
worked in the information distribution department in Facebook,
okay, great. So
which
there
is
was
when Facebook started, 2007. So that's
yeah, 2004. But anyway, so they
but not the news feed.
yes, and
Yeah.
then immediately all the spies came and they wanted to manage the information environment, and they were able to kick off all these,
So I was in Chris Cox's org, which is information distribution.
Yeah,
That's
so-
you're right. It did change then, and videos
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
yeah. So I think the idea was if you grew up in a constrained sense making environment, you have a certain perspective on how the world works, and you're more susceptible to communications that are in that form. And then if you grew up in your sense making environment was actually the information is free to distribute, and so what actually matters is not information in and of itself, but curated information or trusted information or oriented information, just sort of like an Andrew Breitbart comment. Then you have sort of a different perspective, and as a result, like you can't trust the New York Times as a publication, not because they're lying, but because their perspective is schizophrenic, because it's made up of all these different people. Whereas if you go to one person, they're always going to give you the same perspective, even if you don't agree with it like 100%, or it's not 100% accurate. You can orient yourself in the information environment because it's consistent. Because
this is your new thing. Who did you hear it from? You've been saying a few times now. It's government's made of people. New York Times is made of people. We're this is new.
Yeah. So this is all.
month.
This is all sort of like a result of me talking with all the original architects of the modern information warfare battle set.
Okay.
So the post 2022
In America or KGB?
So sort of the Russians, the Chinese, and the US all sort of steal from each other. So it's hard to say like which concepts are. So for example, like in the 2016 election, the Russians did this thing where they went and created this Facebook group for this random town in Texas, I believe.
Yeah.
And they got people to go and protest something in that town. And then they got another group of people to do a counter protest. And both sides doing the protests were both like spun up or triggered by the Russians.
AstroTurf.
Yeah, they were both
But it was real people on the ground.
real people showed up and were angry at each other, but they were completely whatever. And this is a tactic that was pioneered by the Chinese 50 Cent army. They're called the Wu Mao army, where you have three legs of a stool, and there's like a whole thing about how
my Amazon Astro robot just started. I have to go turn it off.
You're gonna go. Do we have to cut this off, or do you not care?
No, I'm just gonna. By the way, I'm gonna advertise this Amazon that's suddenly started.
Oh yeah, you're gonna put your referral code in. So anyway, the Chinese had this
Amazon Astro. It's a robot.
Yeah, look at
for
that.
your
It's
home.
got your referral code on it and everything. The Chinese did this like manipulation technique. So anyway, all of the old manipulation techniques, they don't really work anymore.
It's a robot that like will listen to us and then start playing music, and then
Nice.
just follows me around playing music. And
Nice.
I don't know if I don't know. Maybe I should try using it a bit more.
Part of the reason why we can talk about all this stuff is because the meta, the political media meta has changed since 2022, like very obviously. So one super obvious thing that's changed is that in the United States and other Western countries, almost nobody supports the state of Israel who's under 45. They have almost no support on either the left or the right. Whereas historically, the state of Israel enjoyed a lot of support on the left and the right, which is why older people are very much in support of the state of Israel, regardless of what evidence is presented about, whatever that they're doing in Gaza. And the reason for this is because they had won the manipulation information game that had predominated for the 20th century. But now that game doesn't work anymore. And so it's really obvious that they're really like putting their finger on the scale. And so the question is, what's the new game? And so part of what we're seeing with the Defense Department giving $200 million to OpenAI and xAI and Anthropic, and I think one other company, I think it might be Google, is they're trying to figure out like, what do these next generation information weapons look like, and how do we get back to total information dominance, or whatever
how does the US get back to total information dominance?
Like the Chinese and the Russians are in the same predicament, right? Because it's like
the Chinese have the firewall and censorship on everything. Russia also blocks everything.
The Chinese.
Do you think we're going to have to block everything? Europe also blocks Russia today. Europe blocks a ton of stuff.
Europe is not. Europe is like a colony of the United States in this.
Are we gonna have full information marketplace, or is the only way to block it?
Well, I mean, the idea is to block it and degrade it until we have total information dominance, in which case you tell everybody that it's open, but actually AI is writing every single thing that you read. So like the holy grail is
writing, not just reading.
Yeah. So like the holy grail is, you go on Twitter, right? A lot of people, maybe not so much anymore, but you go on one of these social networks to get information.
Yeah.
So the holy grail, what's called a long night AI, is I follow 500 people on Twitter. Right now, I have a high belief that most of those people, like above 90% of them, are human beings. And that when I read something from one of those people,
not on Twitter,
for the 500 people that I follow, I have a high probability belief.
For the people you follow, okay.
Just please let me finish, right? So for the 500 people I follow, I have a high probability belief that they are real human beings. And that if I read something by one of them, then every other person on Twitter who could have read that thing and did read it, read the same thing. Does this make sense? Okay, so the holy grail is that I follow somebody that you also follow, but when that person talks, it gets reconfigured in real time, unique to me and unique to you. So we both believe that they said something that was slightly different from what they actually said, that was different from what each of us heard. And that is a constructed information environment to move us towards a particular understanding of reality.
Okay. So you'd have to block people taking screenshots as well, and
but at the point where you control the means of information distribution, which is total information dominance, you can do.
I think pretty unlikely. Even like instant messengers, people have a variety of them, right?
So
different networks.
This is like why I think that this idea is stupid, but it doesn't mean that they're not pursuing it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right, we're gonna end the stream, but that's an interesting strategy that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, China could do it. China could do it.
China is